Okay, my apologies for the delay. What I realized was uh, I had the wrong title, the wrong presentation up. It was a previous presentation. So hopefully everybody can hear me. If you cannot hear me, please send me a chat to make sure. Uh, Again, my name is David Kilfner. Welcome to our September webinar on root cause corrective action. And again, I truly apologize for the delay. So today we're going to focus on, again, my name is David Kilfner, site leader, Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. Been a site leader here for a little over 2 years. I was manufacturing manager prior to that. About a little bit about ERA. We were founded in 1977. We're currently located in Golden, Colorado. We were purchased by Waters Corporation in 2007. And we are now in a nice 25,000 square foot facility, uh, which is great. Much bigger than where we were before. We participate wastewater PT studies, drinking water, soils, air emissions, micro radiochemistry, and customs. So this is the sales pitch for ERA. Obviously, we do PT standards as well as CRMs, as well as QC products, and we are accredited to A2LA 17025, Guide 34, as well as 9001. So today we're going to talk a little bit about root cause, and today the agenda is I'm going to talk about 3 different styles or different tools that you can use for root cause. And then I'm going to go through an actual example. So I'm going to give a high-level overview of 5W1H, the 4M or Fishbone, and the 5Y, and then actually demonstrate by taking a problem and walking us through how you can use these tools. And then we'll end with corrective action, a PDCA methodology. So, why root cause? If we look at, we experience problems in our business, in our work life, in our personal lives at home. There's always an underlying reason to an issue or a problem that occurs, and typically it's not something that's obvious. Many times we think we know what the problem is, and many times we end up putting a Band-Aid in because we haven't gotten to root cause. And typically what we're doing is when we're putting Band-Aids on things, is we're actually treating the symptom and really not what the cause. It's a reaction. So really, if you think about your health and medical, many times what they're going to give you is they're going to give you something to treat the symptom, not necessarily the cause of the issue. And again, in manufacturing, in business, whether it's customer service, accounting, manufacturing, whatever it is, many times we end up treating the symptom and not really addressing the root cause or the occurrence, why the problem occurred to begin with. So, by identifying the causes, the whole purpose is to be able to identify that root cause. And in some cases, it might be root causes. There could be more than one. But really looking at it is what can we do? What can we put in place to make sure that we have no repeat issues in the process? And then to get started, the biggest thing is truly understand and clearly identify what the problem is that you're trying to solve. What is the issue? What needs to be corrected? So we'll start talking about, the steps. Again, clearly define the problem. Once you've defined the problem, it's really getting the right people in the room to brainstorm root causes, and that's getting your subject matter experts, the people that are actually involved in the process, and trying to put this together, and trying to understand what are the possible issues. Many times, those subject matter experts are actually caught in the process, and sometimes it's hard for them to see what possible causes are because they're doing it every day. That's why it's always good to have somebody that's not, involved in the process or involved in the issue also on that team, that they can actually raise questions and ask questions that might lead to root causes. And then it's choosing the appropriate root cause tool. And to be honest with you, they're all appropriate. And I'll demonstrate that in an example where I'm actually going to, go through all 3 of the tools that we'll talk about today. So let's start with 5W1H. All right, what's 5W1H? It's basically the who, what, where, when, which, and how. It's a it's a tool that you can use, and typically, if we have an issue or a problem, it's the very first tool that we use. It helps us gather information on exactly what the issue is, and it helps provide areas that we can investigate, and also improve the process. So when we talk about who was involved, who was in the process, who discovered the problem, right? Who in manufacturing might have discovered it, and who reviewed it, so again, you're asking the who was involved, who found it, who was in the process, who was in the steps, who reviewed the material, those types of questions, and you keep asking the who until you think you've got enough of an understanding. Then you ask the what again. So what is the issue? What was the process? What was the particular product? What was the particular customer that might have been located, and what was the location? Where did it occur? Right, and then again, you're asking again on the where, and you go through the same thing. Where did it happen? Where in the process did it happen? Where was it found? Where was it discovered? When did it occur? When in the process did it occur? When was it discovered? And which? All right, which process? Which step in the process might have led to the problem or the issue? Which warning signs were there? Which symptoms occurred? And then how? How is really where you're getting down to. How was it done? What was the impact? How was the impact to the issue that was found? How was it discovered? And so on and so forth. So this really lays the ground piece of understanding the problem, of asking the who, what, where, when, which, and how. And as you go through that, it helps you start to fine tune and kind of get to where we think the root cause may lay. We don't know at this point in time. All right. The next tool is our Fishbone. It's called 4M. It's also known as 4P. There's a number of different terminologies, and it's 4 because you have 4 basic branches that you're going to look at. And it's the method. What was the method or the processes? The materials that are used. Man, what's the personnel, the man, and then the machines. Were there instruments involved? Were there machines involved in the process? So those are the 4 M's, or they could be 4 P's. Process, people, procedures, and it's not just limited to 4. You can have other ones as well. You can have the environment as a possible branch off your Fishbone. Okay, so as we start with the Fishbone, we identify what the problem is, or what at least what's the issue, and then we actually add our sections, our bones, our main lines off that backbone of the problem: manpower, machines, method, materials. And as we move forward, we start asking questions of what do we think the possible causes could have been that resulted in the problem or the issue that we have at hand. And when we talk about manpower, we could be looking at, are laboratory analysts working according to standards? Are they aware of the problems? Is there a high turnover? Are analysts well trained? Is the level of expertise? So you start asking, questions in regards to manpower, and understand and start filling the issues out. When we look at machines, were they working respectively to the processes? Have they been calibrated? Is the instruments capable of doing the job? Is it performing correctly? Do we have an inspection program? Are they working properly? These are all possible causes to an instrument-related issue. And the materials, again, the same thing. Is the material in question? Are we following technical specifications? Are we using the right materials? Are they properly identified? Are they working according to what they're supposed to be working towards? And then methods, again, are the instructions clear? Are the processes clearly defined? Do we have error-proofing methods existing so that these errors don't occur? Which is, another word is POCA. Do environmental conditions and temperature, lighting, cleanliness, those types of things, allowing operators to work properly. So again, when you're looking at the methods of the process. All right, so really the 5 why tool is to detect the root cause of the problem, to fight it and set the defect to zero. Train the people to find answers to the problems using a structured approach. Okay, so when we talk about 5 whys, we're asking, oh, this is the next tool, right? So the next tool is 5 whys. And this is no different than if you have children at home or anybody that's asking why. You always want to go with 5 whys and ask the question until you get to what you think is the possible cause. Sometimes you can get to it without having 5. Sometimes it might take more than 5. I've had occasions where we've gotten up to 10 till we think we've actually identified what the cause of the problem is. Okay, so example of, if the lab results are taking too long and we're missing customer demand, the first question is, why are the results taking so long? All right, well, it's never been an issue until recently. Well, why is it an issue now? Well, it's because we're not meeting customer demand. Why are we not meeting customer demand? Because we're not managing our priorities. Why are we not managing priorities? Because there's no process to manage and schedule. All right, so why is there no processes? Because, well, we've just accepted it. It is what it is. And so you can actually keep going to, why did we just accept it? No focus and those types of things. So again, 5 whys helps you dig a little bit further instead of just stopping at that first why. Why did something happen? And somebody makes a statement and you go and solve that. Again, are you just solving the symptom? Or just solving what one individual thinks the problem is? That's why you have to continue to ask for, using the 5 whys. So, again, the tool, you can use an Excel spreadsheet for this. You can, it could be a Word document, but, again, this is kind of lab results are taking too long. Never been an issue. Second why, third why, your fourth why, and then your fifth why. Again, it's, another possibility is inefficient lab process. That's another, another issue. That could be another cause. That why is that? The lab's unorganized. Why is it unorganized? Because the layout and the flow is inadequate. It's creating lost samples. There's no inbox, and you can continue to go and drill down further. Okay, so let's look at an example. All right, that's an issue occurs. And it's during analytical review, the manufactured mercury standard failed analysis on 2 successive analytical runs. All right, so where do we start? We've made and manufactured a product, and we're not getting the concentration levels that we made the product to. It's not, we're not analytically able to verify. So there's obviously something wrong. So, how do we get started? How do we solve this problem of understanding what caused this? All right, so let's gather some information up front, and let's use the 5W1H occurrence. All right, so who was, the who? So it's the analyst discovered the issue. All right, who else was involved? Technician A manufactured the product, and then technician reviewed the manufacturing folder, basically reviewed the folder to make sure that the product was made in accordance to the concentration level that we were planning to make. All right, so what was the problem? What was the issue? What happened? Well, the mercury resulted in low recoveries. All right, the instrument that was being used was an ICP-MS. The lot of raw material was, whatever that number is. The balance, number this was used. Those are the whats. So now we're gathering information of, who was involved, what was involved. All right, where did it happen? Well, we identified it. It happened during the analytical review. We also know that we made this product manufactured on bench C. So that's where in the process, these things took place. When? Well, we know we analyzed it 2 days after we manufactured it in the afternoon. So it was manufactured in the afternoon. We had the products, it was, packaged and labeled, samples were pulled, and we didn't analyze it until 2 days after it was manufactured. We actually analyzed it in the afternoon, but we manufactured it on the AM right before lunch. Okay, so those are the wins. So now we're really, what we're doing here is we're painting a picture, getting a better understanding of what's going on. Well, there was no warning signs, right? It was the same mercury that we used in the past. It's the same lot. It was the same technician and the same analyst in the past that has made the product, all right? And then how? How did it impact? What was the impact? How did it happen? All right. Well, the impact is that we'll have to remake product. We cannot release the product. It did not meet specifications. All right. We follow procedures, and all documentation appeared correct as far as the manufacturing folder, the bench sheets. We know that the instrument was set up properly, that it was calibrated correctly. So we know that's the how. So as again, as the 5W1H is a great tool to help start uncovering possibilities. It's giving you the details behind the problem. It's not pointing out what your issue is, but it's pointing and it's giving you an understanding of what are the issues surrounding it. Okay. So what the next step would be is, okay, we identified that. Let's get our subject. Let's get our team in the room. Let's get our subject matter experts. Let's get our technician. Let's get our analyst in the room. Maybe another individual in the room, and sit down. And I would go to the Fishbone, the 4M. I would sit down there, and I would our problem is our mercury failed analysis. All right. So what were the possible causes? So if we look at method, right? Did we use a wrong dilution? Did we set up things wrong? Are our procedures unclear? Do we have clear written procedures? Did we not mix and homogenize the product correctly? Was the wrong method used in the manufacturing of the process? Was the wrong method used in the analyzing the process? Okay. We can look at the machine. Was it the wrong instrument? Was the ICP-MS, significant enough to read the mercury, or do we need the ICP? Has the equipment not be PM? Did we not PM the equipment? Was the balance that was used in the manufacturing, was that not calibrated? Did we use the wrong product? Did we use the wrong starting material? Was there a leak somewhere in the ICP-MS? Is there exhaust problem? Again, you could continue to go on and continue to list. If we look at the manpower, was it, excuse me, was it an inexperienced analyst? Were they trained appropriately? Was it a case where we used different analysts, different technicians? Did we calculate our bench sheet incorrectly? Was the individual rushed to get done? Were they not following instructions? Did they not calibrate? And then materials. It was the calibration standard expired that we used on the ICP-MS. Did we actually use the right sample? Did we use the wrong sample? Did we use the wrong lot of starting material of mercury? Had the raw material expired? I mean, again, you're looking at all these questions and trying to understand what the issues may be. All right. Now, once you've exhausted, you've gone through, and you think you've got them listed. All right. Not one of these is going to point to your root cause. Okay. Here's the key thing: is it's not going to point to the root cause. What you're going to have to go, your next steps is you got your subject matter experts in the room. All right, and you're going to have to rely on their expertise, their knowledge, their tribal knowledge, and what you try to do is identify what you think are the key issues. What could actually have led up to the process. So they may come back and say that, it was the right instrument. We did PM it. We did use a calibration standard before, and as you gather that information, you start, this next slide, you start saying, okay, of all these things that we identified, what could be possible causes as we rule out some of the other ones. All right. So, you circle a bunch and you're saying, okay, they're not following instructions, right? They calculated the wrong, for the concentration we're looking at, the calculation was wrong. We had a different technician. It could be bad training, not following instructions. Raw material might have expired. The mercury raw material might have expired. Okay, so you've identified these. The next step, and this is where a lot of folks go wrong, is you have to verify, right? You have to verify that these either they are a problem or they're not a problem. They did exist, they did equate to causing a problem, or they're not involved. All right, and so you have to gather data and information. The other thing that you can do is right after you use the 4M, you could actually go into your 5 whys. Okay, and you identified. So if we go back to the previous slide, we have basically 6 items here that we think could have been the root cause. And again, I say I think because we don't have any data or any issues to support that. All right, so now we're going to use our experts and we're going to go through 5 whys. Once you identified possible cause, it now becomes the team's objective to gather data and facts to support those possible causes. It is possible and likely that there could be more than one cause to this whole thing. All right, and so as you go through and you collect your data and you collect your facts, you start looking at, you can actually start going into 5 whys. All right, so as you ask your questions, you discover that the calculations were correct, right? The bench sheet was correct, the calculations were correct, and that the raw material was good. However, you noticed that the balance as you went, and again, as you're gathering data, if you remember going back, we said that the balance was not calibrated. As we go back, we say, okay, let's look at our calibration log for that balance. And we find out that the balance was not calibrated and verified on the day of manufacturing. And that you had a first-time technician making the product. Which is also a finding, because initially when we said, if I go back to previous slides, we said who, and we said, technician A manufactured the product. All right. It was the same. Oh no, it was a different technician this time than the past time, right? So as you go through, you just find out, hey, it is a different technician. It's not the same technician that made it the last time. It's a first-time technician that's making the product. Okay, so if you've narrowed it down to balance and the possibility of not following instructions, all right? So if I go back to my Fishbone, it could also be bad training as well, but we know the balance wasn't calibrated. We know the materials expiration date was still good. We did have a different technician, all right? We know that the calculations for the concentration level was accurate. So we've now kind of narrowed it down to 4 possibilities. Instead of going and immediately saying, okay, it's bad training, it's bad, it's not following instructions, let's dig a little further into those issues. And let's go into our mercury failed analytical review. The balance was not calibrated. So why wasn't the balance calibrated? Well, the person who's scheduled to calibrate the balance on a daily basis and log it is on vacation. Well, okay, so why the person's on vacation? We know why the person's due vacation, but wasn't there a backup? Again, so you're kind of adding on to that why. Okay, however, the backup for that day was in a meeting all day and did not get to calibration. So what happens next if the person responsible and the person backup are both gone? Our procedure to calibrate now becomes unclear because there is no communications. Nobody took it upon themselves. All right. Why? What's the next why? Always calibrate. We did not look at this scenario of the communications piece, making sure that if we have 2 people responsible for it and both of them are out, what's the next step? All right, you can start seeing a pattern here of, wow, we have a communications problem. Not everybody that works in the manufacturing area understands that before they use a balance, it needs to be calibrated. And even though there's somebody responsible, everybody's got to take responsibility. And so this opens up a bigger gap than just the balance wasn't calibrated. What you find out is that people don't understand that the balance needs to be calibrated, and that training needs to take place, and our procedures need to be revamped and cleared up. Okay. Now, the other one that we looked at is, okay, not following instructions. All right. Well, this ties right back to the fact that the balance wasn't calibrated before use. Anyway, not following instructions. All right. We find out that the tech that made it has only been with the company for 4 months. It was the first time that the individual was making it, so was the person obviously properly trained. No, they were not properly trained. Not only that, they were in a rush to make it because it was right before lunch. Again, excuses, not necessarily causes, but you take those excuses, you take those reasons, and you drill down and you say, okay, the person wasn't trained properly. People don't know that the balance has to be calibrated, and they need to be checking the log to make sure it was done that day. If it wasn't done, it's their responsibility to do it. So when you look at this whole process and you look at the root causes, it comes down to training, clarity, procedures, and making sure those things take place. And again, this is kind of high level. It's a quick and it's a quick process to get through this. And again, I just using an example that occasionally we do run into. We analyze product that we make and it doesn't pass verification, and we have to go back and try to figure out what happened, what took place. It happens in everybody's facility. So the key thing here is that there is no right or wrong tool. And in fact, there are multiple tools, and my recommendation is that you use them all to your benefit. So one thing about the 5 whys that I want to point out, and a lot of people don't understand this, is that you can actually use your 4M, your Fishbone, and your 5 whys at the same time. And I'll try to demonstrate what I mean here on this slide here. If you look at the man part, you can see the not following instructions. You can be asking your 5 whys as you're going through your 4M process, your Fishbone process. Not following instructions. Okay, why weren't they following instructions? Well, we know they weren't following instructions because they did not calibrate the balance. All right, then you can ask, why did they not calibrate the balance? Well, the individual who's responsible was on vacation. The backup individual was in a meeting all day. And you can keep asking those 5 whys, and eventually everything branches off. If you really think about the skeleton of a fish, there's lots of branches off those bones. And you can actually use your 4M and your 5 why all on the same slide. Many times people don't realize that, and they basically put just their causes, and they don't ask the whys and drill down. So you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone just using one tool, using your 5 whys and your Fishbone at the same time. Now, what you don't want to do is try to do 5 whys for every single process. You can actually come back, identify what you think the 3, 4, 5, or 6 leading causes are, and then drill down your 5 whys with that and use it all on the same sheet. Ideally what you want to do is you draw it on a board. My recommendation is that if you have a whiteboard or a flip chart, draw this out. It can easily be transferred to an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, but from a visual standpoint, it's much easier to draw things out. And if you use Post-it notes, you can move things around easily as well. So that would be a recommendation I would have is always use a whiteboard, flip chart, and Post-it notes as you do these processes. Okay. So we basically have come out of this saying, okay, we have a calibration problem. It's very unclear. Our procedures aren't clear. We have one person responsible. We should be making all people responsible for making sure balances are calibrated. We also know that with a new person, it's only been with the company 4 months, and it's the first time that they made the product. We found out they did it on their own. There was nobody there to oversee it. So we need to make sure that the first time anybody new is making a product, that they have somebody there that's working with them to understand, to make sure that they're doing it properly. And at the same time as they watch, they may find out improvements to the processes and procedures and instructions that they can update at the same time. Again, I went through this fairly quickly. It's fairly high level, but it's a good example of how you can use all 3 tools to get to the process. Now, once you have identified your root causes, you actually have to put actions into place, right? What are the solutions and how you're going to attack those root causes? This is the only way you're going to remove the problem, right? Is to get to the root cause and put corrections in place to ensure that it doesn't happen again, all right? And you use an improvement plan that describes the problem, What's the temporary solution? All right. So in this case, if we use our failed mercury example, in this case, our temporary solution was to remake the product, right? So, we're going to remake the product, reanalyze it, and make sure we get it to the specifications and the levels that we're desiring. All right. And then who's responsible for implementing the plan? And the new standard has to be obviously trained and followed by everyone. All right. So how do we do this? There's a thing called PDCA, where we plan, we do, we checked, we act. All right. So in the planning piece, that's really where we just went through, and that's trying to identify the root cause. So we identify what the problem is. So in this case, it was a failed mercury product, failed analytical verification to the standards and specifications that we desired. We formed our team. We put our team together. We sat down and we did 5W1H. We sat down and we also did our Fishbone 4M process, and also our 5 Whys. We substantiated root cause. We went out, we gathered some data. We went out and looked at the processes. We checked we checked the balance logbook. We checked the instrument. We checked the calibration of the instrument. We checked the balance log, the expiration date. We've done all those things, and we come back and we find out that the balance was not calibrated and it was off. So then, once we identified those causes of, okay, what do we need to do? We initiate and we implement corrective actions. All right. We assign the ownerships with due dates for those actions. So in this case, we would assign somebody to rewrite the procedures and do the training on, calibrating balances. We'd also look at our training process to ensure that, rewrite our training process to ensure that all new technicians or anybody making product new for the first time has somebody that's shadowing them and mentoring them through the process. All right. We then implement those actions. All right. The check piece is, after a period of time, we're going to check and verify that the solutions have fixed the problem. All right. So again, it's plan it, then we actually do it. We implement the actions, and then we wait for a designated period of time. That could be, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on how often the product's made. It could be longer than that. It could be a 6-month process. Again, it depends on the problem. And it depends on the frequency of the occurrence that led to the problem. But then you go back and you check to make sure. Now, if you find out that, hey, we didn't get to the root cause, we made mercury again for a 3rd time and it's failed analytical. Obviously, we didn't drill down deep enough to get to the root cause, and that's where the act comes in. Okay, if it's reoccurred or something new has come up, we need to go back to plan, do, check. The plan piece again is going through your root cause analysis and ensuring accuracy. If it did correct the problem, then we can look at it and say, okay, is there any other enhancements we can do to ensure that this is going well? Maybe we find out that, hey, everything is working great, but you know what? We'd like to change our training. We'd like to change this process to make it either more efficient or ensure other issues or problems don't occur. So again, plan, do, check, act. And again, this can all be done on a spreadsheet. This can all be done on a flip chart. I'm not a spreadsheet, a flip chart or a whiteboard. Typically, when you're assigning actions, you want to definitely have an owner and a due date, and to make sure they're done. And then there's follow-up. A lot of times, what will happen is, in my experience, has been that you sit down there, you put your corrective actions in place, and then you tend to forget about it and you move on. Because if a lot of times there's always this firefighting mode of there's another issue or another problem to tackle, and that's why root cause corrective action is so important, because none of us have the time to go back and keep refixing issues. From an efficiency standpoint, from a business cost standpoint, it's truly ineffective, and there's a lot of time, a lot of resource, a lot of energy is spent of not doing root cause corrective action correctly or not getting to the root cause. and it's difficult. I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy to do. It takes discipline, and that's probably the biggest piece to whether you call it lean manufacturing or you call it root cause analysis. It's discipline and disciplining yourself to make sure that you follow up. It's the follow up piece, it's the discipline and making sure things are getting done. Once you've done a number of these and you've gone through the process, eventually your team and your folks will start understanding. And many times what you'll experience is people coming forward and saying, I think I know what this problem is. I'd like to lead this. We got a problem. I think, I've gone through root cause corrective action, and here's the stuff I want to implement. But that's a transformation that takes time. And again, it's committing yourself to it and making sure you're going to get it done. So that's the presentation I have. Again, real quickly, I'm going to go through the beginning. Again, for the just the 3 different styles, 3 different tools. We got the 5W1H. This tool, again, is really what I use this for, is to help identify. It's giving us a little bit of data. It's gathering some information to help understand the problem itself. Who was involved? What was it? Where did it happen? When did it occur? Which process? Which condition? Were there any warning signs? And then how? How does it impact? What was the impact? How does it happen? Those types of things. So again, this kind of gives us the baseline. All right, then we can go into our 4M process, identifying causes. Again, this is a brainstorming session where you have your subject matter experts in the room, and you're throwing stuff at the wall, and you're just categorizing whether they fall into a manpower issue, a machine issue, method, or material issue. Okay, once you've done that, you identified what you think are the key areas that you need to investigate. At the same time, not just discounting the other ones, but again, using your subject matter experts, right? And then you can go into your 5 whys. Excuse me. The 5 whys, again, is to help drill down even further. And as I stated earlier, you can actually use your Fishbone and your 5 whys congruently in the process. Again, you want to make sure that you don't do your 5 whys for every single one of these. You'll be there all day. You want to use your subject matter experts to try to help identify, 3, 4, 5 key areas that you need to investigate, and then you can drill down into your 5 whys right off of that. Once you think you have identified your root causes or your root cause, you put a plan in place for action. That's your do. Okay, what are the actions? Who owns those actions? When are they due by? You want to make sure they're done, and then after, you want to have them in place for a period of time, and you want to check to make sure that the solutions that were put in place have addressed the problem, have addressed that root cause. If it has not, then you need to go back to the plan again. Drilling down further, looking at other possibilities. If it has made and improved the process and the issues is no longer occurring, then you may want to look at, what else can I do to enhance that process? So again, from a 45-minute standpoint, actually a little less than 45 minutes, we got a late start. That's a very high level view of root cause analysis. The critical pieces are having the right people in the room. Always also have an independent person in the room, because many times your subject matter experts are caught up in the forest and not able to see the process in the trees. They do this stuff every day, and so something that may be obvious to an outsider may not be obvious to them. So I always I always recommend that with your subject matter experts, you always have somebody independent. That could be the person that's leading the root cause analysis. It could be somebody from quality that's leading it as well. But always have at least one individual that can ask those questions. And there's no such thing as a stupid question, but a lot of times those people that are not familiar with the process will ask those questions and get people thinking, those subject matter experts thinking. Anyway, so here's the contact information. If there's, we'll look at questions. And we'll go through from that aspect. So at this point in time, there's a lot of participants. If there are questions, please email, send an email to myself or to Al Ramsey, and I will do everything I can to answer questions if you have any questions regard to this. So again, here's the contact information. And please feel free to give a call or send an email, and we'll try to answer all the questions. So with that said, let me see. We have a few minutes here. Let me see if there's any questions at this point in time. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I will try to read through some of the questions that are here now. So the question has this webinar been offered before, or is this new? Thanks. Actually, I think I did this webinar for root cause a little over a year ago, but I have actually changed it. I actually added the 5W1H to this presentation. Will the slides be made available? Yes, they will be made available, and as soon as it usually takes a day or two to get these out there. Can we copy of the PowerPoint? The slides will be made available. It's usually on YouTube's where you find them, and you can use them from there. Do you have recommendations for ensuring follow-up, like scheduling and figuring out how long to wait for a follow-up? My recommendations is you do schedule follow-ups, and typically you want to stay on top of it. So once you've identified your root cause and your actions, you probably want to meet for half an hour every week. It doesn't even have to be half an hour. It could be 15 minutes, but you want to meet on a weekly basis until you get to that point of the actions have been implemented and you're now ready in the check phase. And then even after the check phase, you want to call a meeting back. It could go monthly. It depends on how long your check phase is. But I would say if you have identified an issue, you want to tackle it. I think the first part is you might want to have 2 or 3 meetings the first week, identifying your root cause, identifying your actions. And then after that, it would follow up with at least a once a week meeting to make sure the actions are being implemented. There may be follow-up questions. There could be changes. Again, this webinar will be available online. It will probably be on YouTube, and an email will go out letting people know. All right, question. When assigning due dates and responsibilities in CAPA system, do you recommend that the tools you discuss be performed first in order to meet timeliness? Yes, if you look at, to be honest with you, yes, we want to use these tools first. When we issue CAPAs, we always start off with the 5W1H, and then we go into the Fishbone. Basically, what I've presented today actually follows our CAPA process, is the 5W, Fishbone, 5Ys. We actually go through that process in our CAPAs, and we do that first. And that probably, hopefully I answered that question. How do you prevent people from jumping to conclusions to treat the symptoms instead of doing a full root cause analysis? That's probably the best. That is probably the question, all right? Because we're all, there's a lot of type A personalities out there, and everybody wants to think that they have the answer to the problem. The question is having that independent person that doesn't know the process, having that individual that can ask those questions. The other key piece is whoever's leading the root cause has to understand that there will be people jumping to solutions, immediately wanting to implement. One of the things, and I'm not, I have no problems in sharing this, is that there's many times where a problem exists, it happens, in your day-to-day, and immediately people jump to the solution and implement a change. All right, and it's very hard to break that habit. That's just go out and I think I know what the problem is. I'm going to go out and fix it. you really need to rein those individuals in and get them to understand what they're doing, because they may not be solving the problem and only solving the symptom. That's probably the most difficult piece of this, and that's why, you know, when you really look at root cause, it's a learning aspect. It's not something that you master in one setting. There's always going to be people that want to solve it and what they think the issue is and move forward and move on from that. My recommendation is if you know the problem that exists, you pull the right people in the room. Whoever's leading the charge has to understand that, you know, we're not going to throw solutions at the board. We're going to understand the root cause and fix it from there. Lots of type A personalities. So that's a good question, and that's one that, again, it's making sure that whoever's leading the group reins that process in. And I'm not saying diplomatically rein that process in. I think that's all the questions that we have at this time. Let me check just to make sure. If there's no other questions, we actually will end about 10 minutes early. I appreciate your time. I do again apologize for my slide mix-up in the beginning. Hopefully everybody was able to at least pick some things out, learn a few things. It's, you know, from my standpoint, you know, root cause is one of those tools and understandings that is very hard for people to grasp, because human nature is to, you know, to just solve it and jump into it and not really dig in and understand what the cause is. So I want to thank you for everybody for your time. Have a good rest of the day. If you do have additional questions, please feel free to email and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. We will post this presentation as soon as we can. It'll be on YouTube, and an announcement will go out letting people know where to find it. So again, thank you very much. Have a great day.